The morning sun peeked shyly over Lagos, casting golden fingers across the crowded rooftops and waking the city with its stubborn light. Roselline stood by the mirror, tying her hair into a low, neat bun. She wore a simple but elegant white dress, pure, like her intentions, yet strong enough to weather what was coming. Raphael came up behind her, resting his hands lightly on her shoulders. Their eyes met in the mirror. "Are you sure?" he asked, voice low. Roselline smiled sadly. "I've never been more sure of anything." He pressed a soft kiss to her forehead. "Whatever happens, I'll be waiting right here." Roselline sat in the back seat of an old taxi, her heart pounding like a drum. Today was the day. Today, she would walk into her father's mansion and accept the offer that would change her life forever. She clutched the hem of her white dress tightly, staring out at the passing streets, feeling the city blur into colors. Her mind was filled with Raphael's face, his words last night, the way he touched her hand like she was more precious than gold. Love was enough. Love would be enough. She was halfway through a coil when her phone buzzed loudly against her thigh. Unknown number. She frowned, hesitating for a moment before sliding the screen to pick up. "Hello." A smooth, familiar voice flowed through the speaker. "Anthony Morris." "Roselline," he said, his voice dripping with charm. "It's Anthony. Anthony Morris." She blinked, caught off guard. How did you get my number?" He laughed lightly. "Old friends. Catherine. Sandra. They wanted to help you, and so do I." Roselline pressed her lips together, her body instantly tense. "What do you want, Anthony?" He chuckled again, the sound too polished, too rehearsed. "Relax. I just want to see you. Talk. Catch up properly. Maybe correct a few old mistakes." She didn't reply. "I'm not the arrogant boy you knew back in Switzerland," he continued. "I've grown. Matured. Humbled by life. I'm not here to fight with you, Rosie. I'm here to build something real with you. Let's meet. Please." Roselline shook her head slowly, even though he couldn't see it. "I'm sorry, Anthony. Whatever you're offering, I'm not interested." There was a pause. "Rosie, think about it," Anthony's voice deepened, almost threatening. "You're making choices that could break you. Choices you regret." Her fingers tightened around the phone. "I've made my choice. Respect it. Please don't call me again." Another beat of silence. Then, Anthony's voice turned cold, smooth like glass hiding a knife underneath. "If you won't come to me willingly, don't worry, Roselline. This Lagos is small. I will find you." He hung up. Roselline stared at the dead screen, her heart hammering. The taxi jolted over a pothole, snapping her back to reality. She squeezed the phone in her palm until her knuckles whitened. She could still smell Anthony's arrogance in her ear. Still the same peacock underneath a borrowed coat of humility. No. She would not be fished out. She would not be trapped. She was walking into the fire today, for love. And no past prince dressed in new robes would stop her. Minutes later, the taxi rolled to a halt in front of the Adeboye mansion. She stepped out, white dress glowing in the rising sun, and pushed forward into her destiny. Today, she would accept her father's offer. Today, she would bury her old war to build a new one. And if Anthony Morris wanted war, he would learn that not all roses are soft. Some have thorns sharper than regret. The Adeboye mansion looked the same from the outside. Regal. Untouched. Like a monument refusing to change even as the world spun faster. The security guard opened the gate without a word, already instructed by Chief Adeboye himself. As she walked through the tall doors into the massive foyer, memories flooded her. Birthday parties. Christmas mornings. Her mother's soft singing echoes from the kitchen. Her father, once larger than life, lifted her into his arms when she aced her primary school exams. But those memories now hung like paintings on cold walls. A butler led her silently to the study. There, Waiting at the desk was Chief Adeboye. His face was calm, too calm. On the table between them sat the same thick envelope he had handed her days ago. He gestured to the seat opposite him without speaking. Roselline sat down carefully, smoothing her dress over trembling knees. For a long moment, father and daughter simply stared at each other. No tears. No anger. Just a heavy, aching finality. Finally, Chief Adeboye spoke. Have you made your decision? Roselline nodded, steady. Yes, Daddy. I have. There was a flicker, just a flicker, of sadness in his eyes when she called him Daddy. But he quickly masked it with a stoic expression. She took a breath that seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds. I will accept your offer, she said, voice clear. I will take the half of your estate. I will marry Raphael. And I accept that I will no longer be your daughter. The words sliced her own heart even as she spoke them. Chief Adeboye leaned back in his chair, his fingers interlocked over his chest. He closed his eyes for a brief second, perhaps to seal away the heart inside him, then nodded. So be it. He pushed the envelope toward her. All the documents are inside. My lawyers will handle the transfers immediately. Roselline picked up the envelope with trembling hands, feeling as if she had just picked up a coffin filled with both gold and grief. Chief Adeboye's voice, softer now, broke the silence once more. Go live your life, Roselline. Find your happiness, wherever you think it lies. She stood up slowly. For a brief, aching moment, she hesitated, wishing, hoping, praying that he would call her back, embrace her, forgive her. But he didn't move. Neither did she. She turned and walked out of the study. Out of the mansion. Out of the life she once knew. She stepped into the waiting taxi outside. Roselline's emotions clashed inside her like a storm. Sadness. Grief. Guilt. But love burned brighter. She clutched the signed documents to her chest as the taxi rolled away from the mansion gates. In her mind, she saw Raphael's smile. His laughter. His clumsy way of making pancakes that stuck to the pan. She remembered why she had done it. Love had overtaken her. And she would rather lose a throne than lose a heart that truly, deeply, fiercely chose her. The taxi ride back to their tiny apartment felt endless. Roselline stared out of the window, her fingers clutching the envelope tightly to her chest as if it were her last shield against the storm inside her. By the time the driver pulled up in front of the faded building, dusk had begun to slip its grey fingers across the sky. The world outside was noisy, children playing, traders shouting, but inside her heart, there was only a deafening silence. She climbed the narrow steps slowly, every step heavier than the last. The door creaked as she opened it. There he was. Raphael. Sitting on their old worn-out sofa, his face lighting up the moment he saw her. His eyes softened in instant concern when he noticed the tears glistening in hers. Rosie, he said gently, standing up immediately. What's wrong? What happened? She dropped the envelope onto the tiny dining table with a soft thud and rushed into his arms. She sobbed against his chest, the dam inside her finally breaking. Big, racking sobs that shook her shoulders and soaked the front of his shirt. Raphael held her tightly, stroking her hair, whispering her name again and again like a prayer. When her sobs softened into hiccups, she pulled back slightly, wiping her face clumsily. I signed it, she whispered. He frowned slightly, confused. Signed what? She sucked in a shaky breath. My father's offer. I accepted it. Half his estate, but I am no longer his daughter. Her voice broke again, a fresh wave of pain flooding her. Raphael's eyes widened slightly in shock, but he recovered quickly, his hands cradling her face, forcing her to look at him. Rosie, he said, voice thick with emotion, you shouldn't have had to choose. Not between your family and me. She shook her head fiercely. I chose because I wanted to. Because I love you. Because I believe in us. Raphael's eyes glistened, and he pressed his forehead against hers. Listen to me, Roselline Adeboye, no, Roselline Raphael, he whispered fiercely. I swear by the God that gave me breath. I will not disappoint you. His voice trembled with the weight of his vow. I will honor you every day of my life. I will protect you. Cherish you. Even when my hands are dirty with work, my heart will be clean for you. I will never betray you. I will never make you regret this. Tears welled up in Roselline's eyes again, but this time, they were not tears of grief. They were tears of hope. Raphael pulled her tightly against him, wrapping his arms around her like armor. You are not alone, Rosie. You are not abandoned. You are loved. You are home. He kissed her hair, her forehead, her trembling hands. They stood like that for a long time, two hearts stitched together with invisible thread, vowing silently to build a life out of broken pieces, and make it beautiful. That night, as they lay side by side under their thin bedsheet, Roselline listened to the steady beat of Raphael's heart beneath her ear. And for the first time in a few days, despite the weight of what she had lost, she slept. The morning sunlight filtered lazily through the grimy windows of the apartment as Roselline fastened the delicate silver bracelet around her wrist. Today, she had made up her mind, she would finish everything. Complete the final steps. Close the old chapter forever. Her phone buzzed on the side table. She answered quickly. Miss Roselline Adeboye, a formal voice said. This is Barrister Chokuma, your father's legal counsel. Kindly come to the office this morning. You must review and sign a few more documents to complete the transfer process. Understood, Roselline replied, her voice clipped. She ended the call and turned to Raphael, who was already pulling on a fresh shirt. Ready? He asked with a gentle smile. She nodded. More ready than she had ever been. The law office was just as intimidating as the first time. Cold marble floors. Expensive silence. Inside the conference room, Barrister Chokuma stood waiting, a thick pile of fresh documents stacked neatly before him. Roselline and Raphael sat down, but before she could even pick up a pen, the lawyer spoke. Miss Adeboye, may I ask, are you in your senses at all? His voice carried open disdain, his eyebrows drawn tightly together. Roselline frowned. Excuse me. The barrister leaned back in his chair, regarding her with visible disappointment. You're about to walk away from not just a legacy, but an empire. For what? For love with a man who has nothing. He glanced sideways at Raphael with open contempt. Raphael stiffened but said nothing, his hands clenched on his knees. The lawyer pressed on. Do you realize how foolish this looks? How reckless are you? Roselline's blood boiled. I didn't come here for a lecture, she said through gritted teeth. I came here to complete paperwork. If you can't mind your business, then I'll. She pushed back her chair roughly, standing to leave. But Raphael reached out quickly and touched her arm, his voice low and steady. Rosie. Don't let anger rob you. Sign what you need to sign. Let's finish this properly. She turned to him, her eyes burning, her fist trembling. But the softness in his eyes anchored her. He was right. She could not leave anything half-finished. Not now. Slowly, breathing hard, she sat back down. Without another word to the lawyer, Roselline picked up the pen and began flipping through the documents. Signature after signature. Each stroke of ink sealing her freedom and her exile. When she was done, she dropped the pen with a loud clack onto the polished table. She gathered the copies meant for her records without looking at Barrister Chokuma again. Then she stood up. Tall. Proud. Unbent. Turning on her heel, she walked out of the conference room without a backward glance. Raphael followed close behind, his face unreadable but his steps matching hers like a quiet shield. They burst through the glass doors into the warm, chaotic Lagos air. Roselline exhaled shakily, tears burning her throat. But in her chest, a new kind of peace began to grow. It was done. No more signatures. No more papers. No more chains. Whatever storms lay ahead, she had chosen her captain, and together, they would sail. Roselline took a deep breath, her heart still pounding from the confrontation inside. Raphael walked beside her, silent, respectful of the emotion swirling inside her like a storm. They had barely stepped onto the curb when a sleek black Mercedes-Benz GLE, polished to a mirror shine, pulled up just a few feet away. The driver's window slid down with an ominous, almost theatrical hum. There he was. Anthony Morris. Leaning casually against the car door, sunglasses perched on his nose, confidence dripping from every line of his expensive tailored suit. Roselline froze, her entire body tensing at the sight of him. Anthony pulled off his sunglasses slowly, revealing sharp, almost predatory eyes. "I told you, Rosie," he said smoothly, his voice slicing through the air. "This Lagos is too small for you to hide from me." Raphael shifted slightly beside her, his posture protective, but Roselline gently touched his hand, a silent plea to stay calm. Anthony smiled, tilting his head slightly. "Since the last time we spoke, I haven't been able to get you out of my mind," he continued, stepping closer. "I've changed, Rosie. I swear. I'm not that arrogant boy you knew back in Switzerland. Life has humbled me. Money, power, it means nothing without someone to share it with." Roselline stared at him coldly, her arms folded. "I don't care who you've become, Anthony," she said quietly but firmly. "I don't love you. I never did. I have made my choice." Anthony's jaw twitched, but he quickly masked the flash of anger with a polished grin. "You're choosing him," he scoffed, nodding subtly toward Raphael. "A grease-stained dreamer over a kingdom." Roselline's voice hardened. "I'd rather build a castle with love than rot in a mansion of pride." She turned sharply without another word, waving down the nearest taxi. As she climbed in, Anthony called out behind her, his voice low but loud enough to send a chill down her spine. "You can run, Rosie, but you won't outrun me. I will trail you. I will always be at your back." The taxi pulled away from the curb, and she refused to look back. But deep down, something in her stirred uneasily. Anthony Morris wasn't the type to bluff. And he wasn't the type to lose quietly. Inside the taxi, Raphael took her hand gently. "You're safe," he said, voice steady, reassuring. She nodded, but inside her heart, she knew. The war was far from over. When they got home, the small, familiar room suddenly felt colder, heavier. The moment the door closed behind them, Roselline broke down, falling into Raphael's chest with deep, painful sobs. "I'm tired, Raphael," she cried. "I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of being chased." He held her tightly, resting his chin against her head, his arms wrapping her in warmth and safety. "I know, Rosie," he whispered. "But you're not alone. I'm here. I will be by your side forever. No matter who comes, no matter what happens." His words were simple, but they wrapped around her heart like armor. Slowly, the storm inside her quieted. She was not alone. She never would be. The next morning, just as the first pale light began seeping into their small room, a sharp knock jolted Roselline awake. Raphael stood beside her, but she was already sitting up, heart pounding strangely in her chest. Another knock, louder this time. She quickly grabbed her wrapper and hurried to the door. When she opened it, she froze. Standing there, dressed in a simple but elegant travel suit, was Mrs. Tenny Adeboye, her mother. Roselline's mouth fell open in shock. "Mommy." For a moment, her heart leapt. She had dreamed of this moment, her mother finding her, hugging her, telling her she was forgiven. That everything was fine. But one look at her mother's face killed that hope. Mrs. Adeboye's eyes were cold. Her expression sharp, distant, almost unrecognizable. Roselline stepped back to let her in. "Mommy, how did you find me?" Mrs. Adeboye walked inside slowly, surveying the tiny, humble room with a gaze that made Roselline's chest tighten with shame. "I asked around," her mother said simply, brushing imaginary dust off her dress. "It wasn't hard. Poor neighborhoods have loose lips." Roselline swallowed hard. She tried to hug her, but Mrs. Adeboye stepped aside. "I'm glad you're alive," she said, voice clipped. "At least I can go away knowing you chose this life willingly." "Mommy, please," Roselline whispered, tears already stinging her eyes. Mrs. Adeboye turned, her face twisted in hurt. "You're selfish, Roselline," she said sharply. "Greedy. You only thought of yourself. You didn't think about your father and me, two old people who spent their lives pouring everything into you. You didn't think what it would mean for us to lose you, our only child." Roselline trembled. "I never meant to hurt you. You left me to die in that house." Her mother cut her off, her voice trembling now. "Do you know how many nights I cried, waiting for you? Hoping you would walk back through those doors." Raphael stood silently by the wall, torn and helpless. Mrs. Adeboye turned to him for a brief, cold glance. "And you," she said bitterly, "you must be proud. You pulled a daughter from her family for love. I hope you will carry that weight well." She faced her daughter again. "I wanted to die, Roselline," she said, her voice softer now, raw with pain. "I wanted to die of a broken heart. But I didn't. I woke up. I remembered who I was. And now I no longer wait at windows for a daughter who abandoned us." Roselline sobbed openly now, falling to her knees. "Mommy, please, don't say that. I love you. I have always loved you." Mrs. Adeboye's lips trembled for just a moment, then firmed again into a line of cold resolve. She straightened her bag on her shoulder. "We have handed the remaining companies to the investment managers," she said crisply. "Everything is sealed. There's nothing left for you to inherit or return to." She pulled a plane ticket from her bag and showed it briefly. "We are going to the airport now. To America. There's no reason to stay in a country where we are constantly reminded of our loss." Roselline gasped. Her mother gave her a final look, one part pain, one part pride, or resignation. "You are free, Roselline. Free to marry your love. Free to build whatever future you believe in." She turned, stepping toward the door, but paused one last time. "If you ever come to your senses, if you ever need your mother again, call me." Without another word, she walked out. Through the small compound. Into a black SUV idling outside. Roselline rushed to the door, sobbing, calling her name, but the car pulled away, disappearing into the early morning traffic. And just like that, her mother was gone. Thanks for watching. Watch out for the next season. Do you think Raphael loves Roselline for real? Do you think Roselline is taking a right step? Do you think her parents made a good decision to relocate at this time? Come to the comment section, drop your opinion. Your opinion is highly valued. Kindly subscribe and like. Crystalline Mystics values you. Thank you.